story. Many years ago, I'm not going to say how many, straight out of college, I went to a training. I went to an event and said, hey, this is an opportunity for you. You're in DC, come meet with your Congress people. This is how to do it. These are the things you're going to talk about. It was a phenomenal training. They did a lot of, it was really inspiring. And I remember leaving that training saying, that was so amazing. I am never going to lobby a legislator in my life. I was intimidated. Fast forward, this is what I do for a living. But every time I do this, I go back to my 20-some-year-old self who said, I care about these issues. I'm intimidated to talk to elected officials about this. So today's training is for those of you who are passionate about youth justice issues, want to see our society move forward and changing legislation, because we can't wait another year, another 2 years, another session. But the prospect of meeting with elected officials is daunting. Like, who are they? What do I say? What would it look like? So this training will be in 2 parts. The first part will just be like, well, this is the training, the learning piece. These are what the bills are. This is how to do these legislators meetings. The second half, which I think is the most fun part of this, is having you practice. We will have several advocates who are here on the screen with us today who will be your legislator for the day. And you will be meeting with them in breakout sessions and try to advocate with them and convince them on the bills you care about. This is a way for you to practice with no risk. And you can try it out, see how it feels. And then hopefully by the end, which we'll say, that was so easy, I can't wait to do it in real life. So what I want to start off first is we are first recognize some legislators and aides who are here. And again, if I don't see everybody, please let me know. But I'm going to start with aides first. So we have representation from Senator Creighton's office today, and I believe that's all the aides. Please let me know if I'm mistaken, but we're also honored to have Representative Randy Fluker-Oakley with us today. So she is the lead sponsor of one of the diversion bill, and we are very honored to have her. So I just want to give you a floor if you can give us a few words to start us off, Representative.
Sure. Thank you so much, Sana, and good afternoon, everyone. It's great to see you virtually on this Tuesday. I promise my remarks will be brief. I just want to echo some of what Sana has said. I know she mentioned it could be nerve-wracking to talk to legislators, but I truly believe that we miss 100% of the shots that we don't take. And they say practice makes perfect. So even if you feel like you were a little rusty or off the first time around, the more you do it, it feels like riding a bike. Very briefly, just to tell you all my background, I am a former teacher, so I taught 3rd grade in Baltimore City. After trying to help my students and their families navigate some systems, I always came up against roadblocks that were often written into our laws, which led me to go to law school so I could get the tools I needed to be a better advocate. In my 3rd year of law school, I did a juvenile defender clinic down in Atlanta. And that's where I got the bug for litigation. I actually applied to be a public defender back at CPCS here in Massachusetts, which is where I got my career as a public defender. And it was through that role that I saw firsthand many of the systemic inequities in how my clients who hadn't been served well by our public education system were served really well by our criminal legal system. And I didn't want that to be true. So I left the traditional practice of law and became an education advocate, doing much of what Sana does with y'all. I did with teachers and other interested persons to be an advocate for our public school system. And because my background is as a teacher, and my first protest was actually organized in the 3rd grade, and my second protest I organized in the 5th grade, and by middle school there was really no stopping me. It is so important for young people to get involved and to find your voice. So I'm so excited for the training that you have today to practice. And the reason why it matters is your perspective is important. You see what's happening around your neighborhoods, your communities, in your home life, and you actually have ideas and solutions to make it better. And elected officials, despite our best efforts, can't be everywhere all the time, and we don't see everything and always know what's happening. So it's just critically important for folks to share their stories and ideas in order to make the situation better. And I'm super proud of this generation in particular, who have been leading protests, leading movements, and speaking truth to power. And so many of our young people are finding their voice, and I hope you are able to continue to find your voice as well. And I just want to say, do not let your fear or anxiety steal your voice. Don't let it discourage you. Oftentimes, the more we do something, the more comfortable we become at it, and just continue to push yourself outside of your comfort zone and take a risk. Oftentimes, you might have feelings of imposter syndrome and doubt might creep into your mind, but those feelings should never persist, and they definitely shouldn't win. Just know that you're worthy, you belong, and your voice matters. So I hope y'all have some fun with your training today. And that's all I got, Sana.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Representative. And I also want to recognize staff from Chair Decker's office have also joined as well. So I know Senator Crichton, whose aide is here, is the lead sponsor of the Raise the Age bill in the Senate, and Chair Decker is the lead sponsor of expungement. So we have legislators from all three bills today. So this is really exciting to have all of you. So thank you so much, Representative. Thank you so much, all the staff. So with that, what we're planning for the next few presentations is discussion about the bills. We talked about, this. So CFJJ and the Juvenile Justice Coalition, we have several bills currently pending in the legislature, and our priorities going from preventing entry into the legal system, making sure that the young people who are involved in the legal system, the responses are developmentally appropriate and actually help young people transition positively into adulthood, and then also reducing the collateral consequences to reintegration. So knowing that themes, our coalition chose 3 of those bills as ones we wanted to highlight. So the Juvenile Diversion Bill, the Raise the Age legislation, and expungement. So we have speakers who will talk about those 3 bills from their perspective, and they're going to try to answer 2 questions for you. Why this issue matters, and when you push this legislation, what does this legislation do to get us close to our goals? So I'm going to hand it off first to Ducci Goncalves, who is the Deputy Counsel of the Youth Advocacy Division at the Public Defender's Office, CPCS.
Thank you, Sana, and nice to see everyone. I'm excited that you all are here and excited about the great work that you will be doing. As Sana said, I am the Deputy Chief Counsel at the Youth Advocacy Division, which is the Juvenile Defender Unit of the Committee for Public Counsel Services, which is the State Public Defender's Office. And I'm here today to speak to you about the diversion bill. And as Sana mentioned, Representative Oakley is here, who just spoke to us. Thank you. She is the lead sponsor of this diversion bill. So excited to have you here. Prior to starting my position as Deputy Chief Counsel in November of 2021, I represented children in delinquency and youthful offender proceedings in Massachusetts courts for over 16 years. And when judicial pre-arraignment diversion passed in 2018, we were all really excited as juvenile defense attorneys. But what we found when it came to the practice, a lot of our clients where diversion was appropriate didn't qualify for judicial diversion because the offenses were ineligible. And many times we found judges telling us that their hands were tied. Had the offense been eligible, then they would have allowed diversion, but because it was on the ineligible list, that unfortunately diversion wasn't an option. And so this was really frustrating for us in practice. And we would see charges such as assault and battery by means of a dangerous weapon. And when you hear that, that may sound serious and scary. However, we had a case where someone was charged with assault and battery by means of the dangerous weapon for throwing a Dorito chip at a teacher, and it hit the teacher in the chest. Now, Is that something that really qualifies as a dangerous weapon? Is that something better dealt with through diversion? So we found lots of examples like that when it came to certain offenses, and we're really frustrated that the judges felt that their hands were tied because they couldn't allow judicial diversion. Now, diversion is a really important alternative in juvenile court. Despite the progress that we've made since 2018 with the Criminal Justice Reform Act, youth of color are still overrepresented at every stage in the legal system. Youth of color are actually least likely to benefit from diversion because the police make decisions about what charges to apply for. DAs make decisions about what charges to charge them with. And oftentimes those are offenses that are currently ineligible for diversion. So it's really important that this bill pass to continue our work to help reduce the racial and ethnic disparities that currently exist. In addition, diversion is a more effective way of dealing with young adults. It provides better outcomes and opportunities to reduce reoffending and avoids them having a record. And we know what the collateral consequences for young people having a juvenile record. It also is important because the judges in this instance are the neutral party, and they can help assess and hear from the Commonwealth and hear from the defense attorney and decide, even if a charge is eligible, whether or not diversion is appropriate. And lastly, when a young person is on diversion, they're still accountable. There's still certain requirements that they have to meet while on diversion. It's an important tool that continues to keep young people out of the legal system, to keep them from having a record. So it's really important. Now, what exactly does this bill in particular do? Well, it opens up the diversion by reducing the offenses that are ineligible. So as I was talking to you about before, things like assault and battery by means of a dangerous weapon, assault and battery on a police officer if there's no injury, all of those kinds of charges. It opens up the pool of charges that are eligible for diversion. And the impact is really great for youth who would potentially face an arraignment, a record, if they were ineligible for diversion. And we also hope that the bill will address suspension of young people who, if they are diverted, that schools still have the power to suspend them indefinitely, but we're hoping with some amendments that will be successful in taking the ability of the school to do that. So as I've said, in practice, having a bill that expands the eligible offenses for attorneys to ask for judicial diversion is extremely important for our clients. And I'm happy to answer any questions. And again, thank you for your time and your willingness to be here today to work on these really important issues.
Thank you so much, Ducci. Next up, we're going to be talking, we're going to have Chris LaFortune and Jacob Brave Robinson. Both of them are alumni of More Than Words, who will be talking to us about Raise the Age. And I know, Leon, if you can make them co-hosts, they can share screens. And want to take it on?
Thank you. So I mean, I can absolutely introduce myself, but so would we start the presentation now, or would we wait until later?
Here, go ahead. You can start it now.
Great, thank you. Christina, are you Chris? Cool, perfect, thank you. But yeah, my name's Jacob. This is Chris. We're from More Than Words. Do you want to introduce yourself, Chris?
Hi, sorry, yes, I'm getting ready to figure out how to share my screen. But yeah, I'm Chris. I am also from More Than Words. And my pronouns are they, them. Oh, I think I figured it out. Okay. We've got this. This is smooth. No technical difficulties whatsoever. How do I present this? Like that. Okay. Can everyone see that? Okay.
Yeah.
Hold on, I'm gonna minimize this. So yeah, as we were saying, we're More Than Words. Where the Power Is Yours, a group from More Than Words, and we're here to talk to you just a little bit about, what it is that we've been doing, and more specifically what we advocate on currently, which is the Raise the Age Bill. So for those of you who don't know, we'll tell you a little bit more about who we are.
Yeah. So, as Chris mentioned, the power is yours. Stemmed out of More Than Words. More Than Words, in case anybody is or is not familiar with MTW, is a nonprofit social enterprise that works with youth ages 16 to 24. And those youth oftentimes are involved in DYS or DCF, Department of Children and Families, and as well as out of school or homeless and just in situations like that. So the power is yours kind of bloomed over the course of COVID. And it was just alongside some other things because everything was online on Zoom. So it started out as one of the courses that we got paid for, and eventually, the Zoom sessions ended and everything kind of came back to in person. But the power is yours stayed. So that was kind of cool to get involved with that. And
Yeah,
some
right.
of the things that we
Sorry, I accidentally skipped forward. No, but we're gonna show you a little bit more about, I guess, because we do really want to focus on like why this is important. And so we have just a couple of statistics that we usually show people whenever we give presentations about like what we do here. So let's see, like 800 youth age out of DCF custody each year in Massachusetts.
and 30 to 50% of homeless youth are coming out of DCF custody, which is a large percent. It's crazy.
It is. 78% of youth in Massachusetts DYS were once in DCF. Oh, and hold on, we can get, okay.
Yeah. 47% of people in adult jails haven't completed high school. So that's like half. It's too many, because it's, so yeah.
55% of young adults leaving adult prison in Massachusetts wind up reconvicted.
And as a counter statistic to this, 22% of individuals who wind up in DYS reconvict as adults, but that's a 33% jump from adult prison to DYS. So there's less youth are reconvicting, which is why kind of some of the argument behind why people should support Raise the Age. Because if we're still developing, our brain is still developing until 25, there's really no reason to have people that are, ages 18 to 20 in adult jail versus DYS if there's a lower reconviction rate. Yeah.
And lastly, 70% of young adults in state prison are people of color, which is just something we like to emphasize to show that this is along with just being like a social justice issue about like the inequity that happens through DCF and DYS it is an issue of race. And so this is just something that we show. If it's something that I'd recommend you look into, we can put our fact sheet that we show people in case you want to look more into it or show other people when you have these conversations. But this is a metaphor that we use. And we can explain it really quickly, but it's essentially just that, we as an organization and just as an advocacy group do our best to help propel people over the like walls of injustices that exist. Different like ableism, like homophobia, racism, xenophobia, Islamophobia. But this serves more as something that we show legislators usually because it helps turn like this very abstract idea, because I think in general, social justice issues are very abstract usually, into something that is tangible, something that like makes sense, that you can like see, look at and be like, okay. So we use this fairly often. But these all kind of serve to help us promote raise the age, which is one like our main issue. So you can see it there, but raise the age essentially is youth ages 18 to 20 should be moved out of the adult justice system and into the more developmentally appropriate juvenile system. And like the statistics that we showed earlier, it is better in like countless ways. It provides better access to education, mental health services. It lowers recidivism rates. You don't carry an adult record with you that prevents you from getting into schools, getting jobs, housing, all of that. Jake, if there's anything you'd like to add on about the bill?
No, I mean, yeah, I think you covered it really well, and some of, as you mentioned, this is some of what we use to kind of show people reasons, not just reasons why, but just how the bill can help in general as a whole society and different things, and as well as the recidivism rates, and just in terms of criminal records and people being able to succeed further in life. But yeah, thank you for listening to us, and thank you again.
Great. So thank you both so much. We are next going to be hearing from Leon Smith, CFJJ's Executive Director, to talk about expungement.
Thank you so much, Senna. And so I'm talking about the importance of expungement, and there are multiple reasons why this bill is so important and crucial. One, we understand that people of color are disproportionately represented at every decision point in the juvenile and later criminal justice system, from arrest to arraignment to detention to commitment. And so when you consider that, we also have to consider that from that point of adjudication or conviction, where someone, onward, the disproportionate impact of the collateral consequences of a juvenile record also fall on communities of color. So when we look at pieces of legislation that have a race equity component, expungement is one of those bills that's an important tool to begin to rectify generations of systemic racism imposed upon communities of color. Also, when you look at a record, oftentimes we think of adult records and their collateral consequences. However, a juvenile record, there are hundreds of collateral consequences of a juvenile adjudication as well. And so when you look at a young person and their life arc, their career arc, the possibilities, having that juvenile record, it can impact their ability to get licensure for certain professions, whether it's a dental hygienist or becoming a therapist or a mental health counselor. It can make them ineligible moving forward for certain types of employment, whether it be working at a county correctional facility or assisted living home. So, the way the law currently sits, we have young people. We have people in general, oftentimes years or decades removed from the last time they got in trouble with the system, still having the weight of that record like a millstone around their neck, impacting their life outcomes. Furthermore, when you look at the justification for, criminal records, it's supposed to be predictive of future crime. Well, you did this thing, then supposedly that makes you more likely to get in trouble in the future. Accepted research debunks that. Adults whose last illegal behavior happened as a juvenile, over the passage of time, are no more likely to reoffend than any other member of the public. And yet we still continue to hang these consequences on people and limit their ability to make a living, their ability to really reach the type of milestones that are necessary to gain a productive foothold in adulthood. And so by expanding expungement, we simply expand the ability of people to leave the mistakes of their past behind them and be able to move forward. People who've already left that behavior behind, because as young people mature, they mature beyond that behavior. But unfortunately, our system doesn't allow people to move on from that behavior because your 20s, your 30s, your 40s, your 50s, you still have to answer for the mistakes of your youth. It's not fair. It doesn't help reduce crime. It simply makes life much more difficult than necessary. So when you look at expungement, it's the race equity component, but in general, it's about this fundamental and core fairness and allowing people, it's one thing to say, oh, we believe in second chances. Second chances is allowing people to go forward, petition the court, and be able to completely leave their past behind. And that's why I believe expungement is important.
Great, thank you so much, Leon. So I know we do have to leave a lot of time for Q&A, but I promise you we will make some time around the breakout sessions, just because I want to make sure we get through all the information. Hopefully, if you have any questions, they may be answered. But if not, we'll use there will be a break. We'll say if you have any questions to bring it up, but also feel free to put questions in the chat, because we can try to answer those real time. So I want to go back to sharing the screen. This is the hopefully not intimidating part. This is a step-by-step instruction about how to meet with your legislators. So I will start with just like explaining about the process, how to do it. And before jumping in, we're actually going to hear from another young person from More Than Words about her experience doing this. But without further ado, how do you meet with your legislators? The first thing you want to do is there's a golden rule, and many of us who do this work recognize the statements. You have to get the right information to the right person at the right time. This is what this is all about. You want to get, what is the information? Who do you have to give it to? And when are you reaching out to them? Because what you tell them depends also on when it is. So all of those three things go together. So I'm going to give you a quick overview about the legislative cycle in Massachusetts, just so they understand where things are. There will be no test about this, so don't be, it's okay. This is just to put it all in context, because we keep asking, do this, but why am I doing it for a different action for this bill versus another bill? It's really about the timing. So first thing is, legislative cycles always start in the odd year. So by January, you have to have a bill filed. When it's filed in January, sometime around March, again, of the odd year, it gets assigned to a committee. This is like, all there's 7,000 bills. You can't have all the legislators look at all the bills together. So what they say is, like, this committee focuses on this issue. This is on this issue. We'll give you this batch of bills. You guys figure it out. We'll give you this batch of bills. It's just managing the workload, but it's based on the issue. When it comes out of that committee and say, yay, this is moving forward, it's what's called reported out favorably, because they can make different recommendations. They can say, we don't like it, we like it. Favorably just means we like it. We want it to continue to move to the next step, which is typically another bill that looks at the impact of the bill. So not just the topic, but like, in a lot of cases, it's the fiscal impact. How much is it going to cost taxpayers? Then from there, the Ways and Means. So the Ways and Means Committee is the typical one that goes to. They say, yeah, we like this bill. Now we're going to send it for a vote. It will either go to the House or it will go to the Senate first. One of them. It's just an internal decision which House goes for it first. So one branch votes on it and they say, yay, we like this bill, we voted, the bill passed. So the next step is it goes to the next branch. So if it starts in the Senate, the next step, the House, starts in the House, goes to the Senate. But they don't have to go through this entire cycle. They go to usually the Ways and Means Committee of the other branch. And that Ways and Means says, yay, we like, this is our version. We think it's a good idea, but this is our version. And then it passes, but then they're like, but what the House did and what the Senate did aren't really the same. Typically, they're not the same. So you have what goes into a conference committee. So like, you know, a handful of senators and handful of representatives meet together and say, okay, how can we negotiate this so we have one bill? Then one bill comes out and it goes to the governor signs, vetoes. There's, you know, once the decision happens, they're like, yay, great, it's a law. If any bill does not make it before July 31st through this entire process, we start all over again in January 2023 this time, but this whole cycle all over again. So I will explain to you of these three bills where they are in this cycle, just so you understand why each of these bills has a different ask, because each one of them is at a different stage. Again, if this is overwhelming, it's fine. There is no test about this. What you really care about, again, what is the right information and what is the right time and who are we asking? So diversion, you heard from Ducci about what the bill does. Things you need to know. You need to know what's your pitch for this bill. What this, you know, this expands opportunities for young people to have community-based alternatives to legal system processing so that you can hold them accountable without creating a record. The bill number is Senate 2942. That number is important because that's how they tag the bills. If you go say diversion, they're like, yeah, great, I don't know what you're talking about, but you need the bill number. That bill is having a vote. The vote is happening in 2 days. At 11 o'clock on Thursday, the Senate is going to vote on diversion, on this diversion bill. So going back to the cycle, this is where we are. We're like almost halfway through, and this is really, really good. So when it's coming up for a vote, what are we asking for? We're going to be asking, I'm going to talk to you about, like, when you do these asks, what you're going to be asking for. The ask is about having the Senate vote yes on this bill. I'll talk to you a little bit more about this, about what the ask is. Raise the age, which Jake and Chris spoke about. That bill, what we're trying to do is, the one-liner is, we're trying to end the automatic prosecution of teenagers or old. Some people have an issue with teenagers for 20-year-olds, so like, you know, young people, older adolescents, by shifting them into the juvenile justice system. And then, you know, Chris and Jake talked about all the arguments why that's the case, but this is what this does. The bill, there's two bill numbers, because both of them there's a House version and a Senate version. We're still there. So that the bill numbers you want to have ready is the H 1826 or Senate Bill 920. That bill is currently in the Judiciary Committee. So, and that has a deadline to be reported out on June 30th, which means the bill committee has to say, am I going? So if this is where we are, it says the next step is, do you want to report out favorably? We want to say, no, we don't want it to vote, or what goes into what's called the study, which means, nope, we're done, game over for that bill. June 30th, if you can see how early it is in the cycle, it's pretty early. We really need to push to get it to the next step. The clock is ticking, but it doesn't mean we're down. We have, like, if we can get it out of the committee, we're going to get it as farther than we've had before, which we would, you know, want to make sure that we have that commitment from House and Senate leadership, that there's some kind of commitment to move it forward. The third is the expungement bill. Again, the pitch is, I don't have a pitch. My favorite line about this is, young people from UTech can't coin this, where erase my sentence so I can write a novel. I was like, I can write a paragraph about what expungement does, but that spoke so much about what this is about. Again, the bill number is Senate 2837. It was reported out favorably out of the Judiciary Committee, but it's now at that next stage in Senate Ways and Means Committee. So again, so if you can see where it is, it's a little further down in the cycle. So depending on where each of these bills are, the ask is going to be different. So I'll tell you what. So this is now where you want to say, okay, now I'm going to talk. I care about this, right? I'm here. I'm going to spend my afternoon because I care about this issue. I want to learn about it, but it's not enough. What's here needs to be conveyed to the people who can sign and vote yes. So this is the step-by-step instructions. The first thing, there's this website, and what you do is you click in this website. You will be able to put in your own personal address, the address where you vote, like, you know, your residential address, it's not a mailing address, like, you know, where are you constituents? So when you vote, whose district you're in. So the web page will give you two options. The first option is you get a map, and you sort of like go in the map, and it's visual. If you're someone who's visual, you can use it that way. So if you enter this location, this is what the results page will look like. It will say you put in this address, or I think even you can click on the map, say, yeah, this is my street, and it will tell you these are your reps and senator, your rep and senator. The option 2 is if you scroll down, if you want, like, no, I don't want to do this map thing, I just want to type in my address, you just scroll down, you can put it in there, and you get a similar, the page in this case becomes their picture and a link to their page. Where it says their name, that's where you click. And when you click on it, it will give you their contact information. The 2 pieces of information you need are their email address and their phone number. So you want to save that and say, this is, so I know who my rep is, I know who my senator is. Now, what am I going to ask them? What you want to do is you want to ask them, I mean, it'd be great if you want to ask for a meeting. I'm going to talk about meetings, so today's training is about meetings, but many of these things can be transferred and just say, no, I don't want to meet with you, but I'm going to share my content by email. Most of these things are totally transferable if you just want to send them an email with your personal, with what your thoughts are, if that's what your preference is. But I'm going to take this a little step further about asking for meetings. So your goal is, I want to meet with you. We have a lobby day planned for tomorrow. And that's what the next, tomorrow's event, you can come to the State House, or again, you make phone calls or emails. But if you're going to come, like, I want to meet with you, I'm going to come to the State House tomorrow. Or if you can't, tomorrow's not work, I'm going to email you, but I want to meet with you and sometime in the next week. That's perfectly fine. Just tomorrow you'll have a group, you won't be by yourself. That's the benefit of tomorrow. So what you say is you put in a request by email and you say, I want to meet with you. And you have to specify, I want to meet with you in person at the State House, or most legislators have office hours in the community. I'm like, I'm in Holyoke. I'm not going to come to Boston, but I want to meet with you. Can I meet you at your, wherever you're, can I meet you in your district office or somewhere they typically have like office hours in a cafe or something like that in a public space. And, can I meet you when you're in the district? Those are usually the least stressful because it's in an environment where you're familiar with, and it's much more informal. It's easier conversation. But both of those, you can meet at the State House, you can meet in the district, or you can say, I want to meet with you on video. There's still, a lot of them are still doing Zoom meetings. So you can put in that request in your email. This is why I want to do it. You email your representative separately than your senator, because you're gonna have 2 separate meetings. They don't meet together. In your email request, again, this is the request, include the bill numbers. Remember, I mentioned what those bill numbers are. So here are the bill numbers and links to the fact sheets. I'm going to tell you where that link, you can find those links. And then you can say, if they ask for you, and if they say, I can't meet with you, I can meet, the senator or representative is not available, can you meet with an aide? The answer is always, yes, thank you, that would be great. And I'll explain that why. If you put in an email and you don't hear back, because so much things are happening now virtually, they're getting like thousands of emails a day. What I found a good tip is if you follow up with a phone call. Hi, my name is Sana. I sent you an email yesterday to request a meeting. This is my number. What they do is prompt them to go through their email inbox and find your email that you requested. Again, if you don't want to do an email and just make a phone call to request, that's perfectly fine. So let's say they say, I can't meet with you. I can only meet with an aide is available. Is that okay? The reason we say, yes, great, thank you. You actually will have more time to discuss with an aide, because legislators like, well, I have a roll call. I have another meeting, or I'm preparing for a vote. There's all sorts of stuff, vying for their attention. Legislative aides typically have more time, so you don't feel rushed, and you actually can feel like, okay, you know what? They can listen to me. But also, they also do most of the background work for legislators. Most legislators, like I said, they have 7,000 bills to decide on. They typically care about 3 issues where they're personally invested and they know it in and out. That leaves everything else. They're like, I don't know, tell me about it. I'm interested to hear. And they're very curious, especially on things that they don't know about. They're very, very curious. I want to hear from you. I still get like, oh wait, you want to hear from me, like just little old me? But yes, like, oh, I'm so glad you, like, I hear a lot, like, I'm so glad you reached out, because we were curious and we didn't know who to ask, and we didn't know. So but they can't do that with everything. So so aides are the ones, if they don't hear from folks, aides are the ones who are usually doing the background work for them. So here's a tip I learned, and then the percentage is not scientific, but if you convince an aide that your position is great, you've done 80% of the work to convince the legislator. It could be 75, it could be 95, it depends. But I found like they do a lot of the work that they typically say, you know what, I've met with them, I've met with others, and I think, you know, I think what this person said, I think it makes sense, and I don't see any problems with it. And then the legislator has to make their final decision. So getting ready, you typically have about 15 to 30 minutes. So what you want to do is you want to start off by your priorities. I mean, again, there's a beginning as like, no, you're personable. Hey, we go, you know, they will if you meet with a legislator, they will typically go over like which school they went to, and which, you know, the store owner down the street, and, you know, oh, you guys, you know, my teacher was your grandmother. All of that stuff is going to happen with legislators. So that will take some time. Not a lot with aides, but with legislators, it happens. Like, yes, oh my God, Vicky, our grandparents went to elementary school together. But then you'll have some time to say, okay, so here, what this is what I'm here about, and you go straight to it. Like, you don't want to build up to your points. You start off with your point, and everything else is to support it. And if you're in a group, which could be helpful, especially if you're nervous in their first time, just make sure everybody in the group gets a chance to share their thoughts, because each one of you has a unique perspective and they want to hear from you. And I would say also prepare ahead of time, like, what are you going to say? Why this matter? Again, our speakers today, they had to answer 2 questions: why this matters and what this bill does. That's typically what you want to do as well. And here's the most important thing: don't forget to ask. Because I've had so many people who say, oh yeah, I went to this meeting, it was great. I told him about how I felt and told him what I think he should do. And I told him it was great. And I was like, well, did you ask them like what they want them to do? It's like, well, what action? You want to hold them accountable by asking them, giving the ask, which is the specific action. And again, you'll see a lot of things that we will send out action alerts. Like here's a script, here's a thing. There's lots of scripts out there, like what to say. Scripts are helpful for, like, you know what, I have the thoughts, but I don't know how to put them in words. Scripts are good for that, but try to put them in your own words, because they can tell, the legislators can tell when it's your own words and when it's, like, you know, cut and paste, or typically cut and paste, because you can't, you know, in person is your own words typically. And then there will be challenges in these meetings. You will get questions and you don't know the answer. Don't make it up. Don't say it is better to say I don't know. It is even better to say I don't know, but I can get you the answer if you can get an answer. If you can't, just say I don't know the answer to that. That's a great question, I just don't know. They would much rather you say that than giving them something that you're like, well, they'll say, well, I relied on you and it turned out to be wrong, and then your own reputation and your how much they can rely on you becomes a problem. And then also be courteous. It can be frustrating. I know, like, some of these bills we've been fighting for them for years, and you know, young people are not going to be young for, you're not going to be 16 again next year. You're not going to, you know, you're not going to you're not going to have young people know the value of time, because this is the time you're young. When we talk about, oh, we can wait another 4 years, we're another 2 years, it's not there. So the delay is very, very frustrating. And there are also times where legislators, like, I know you vote against me. Like, every time you vote, you vote negative. It's really important to be courteous, even when they disagree with you, because you want them to say, like, look, I disagree with you, but I can come back to you. And the important thing is you want them to come back to you. You want them to be as a resource. So then how do you structure what you actually say? So it's an outline. Again, it's not a script. First, you want to introduce yourself. This is where I live. This is who I am. This is where I live. And this is why I'm here. Your values. What if you say, like, this is what matters, why this matters, that's your value statement. That's how you start it off. And then I want to talk to you about these bills, right? Then you say, what are those bills? So for each bill, you give them the bill number and where it is in that, that cycle. This is where it is. So this is a summary. And then you can say, well, this is the problem. This is why it matters. And the supporting facts, again, you want to say facts because you're making decisions about real life. The facts can be data, they can be research, but you know what else is facts? Your own personal experience. That is a fact. So I know a lot of people say, oh, but I don't have the data. Can you give me, can I get the research so I can support myself? Like, yeah, I'll give you the research, but your value is your own experience. And if that's what's driving you, share that. That is a fact. And then you will say, so you have the problem statement. This is what matters, the problem statement, and then this is how the bill fixes this problem. And again, the facts can be used to explain the problem. The facts can also be used to explain this is what the solution, what this bill does. Then you want to say, you want to make sure that there's time for conversation. And then you have to be very specific. This should not be education committee, should be any committee. It's like, will the representative or senator do X, whatever the ask is? And then you want them to commit. And then you say, thank you for discussing with me. I want you to follow up and tell me what they decide. And then this is what we nice. Most people don't do it. So if you do it, you will also rise up as memorable. Just send a follow-up email or a note. Just say, thank you so much for meeting with me. You can also thank them on social media. You can send a message on social media. Hey, it was great meeting. I met with your aide and it was awesome. Thank you so much. And if you have any questions, please let me know. So before jumping in, this is where Janaea, you'll come up. So I'm going to share Janaea, the floor with Janaea right now, who's going to talk about her own experience.
Hi, my name is Janaea. I'm a Power is Yours ambassador through More Than Words. So being a Power is Yours ambassador, being part of that group, it's an advocacy group. So what we do is we do a lot of speaking with legislators, setting up meetings, doing different things like that. So my experience has been a great experience for me and my team. I know for me personally, when going into my first meeting, I was very afraid, not sure why I was afraid, but as the time has gone, I've gotten more comfortable in speaking and different things like that. And I realized that, legislators are people just like I am, a person. We are all human beings. They just have a title that I, may not have. We have had some good and bad experiences with meeting with legislators. I believe with my personal favorite is our meeting that we had with Senator Gomez was a great meeting. I got to know him on a personal level, and he was able to understand a lot of things that we were saying and that we were stating to him. And we also had other experiences that weren't very good. Rep Day hasn't been very responsive to us, but we continue to push and hold them accountable for not being as effective as they should be with us. For us, meeting with legislators looks like, first we prepare the meetings, getting the slide deck that you've seen earlier that Jake and Chris had showed, rehearsing, but by now we know our slide decks pretty well, so we don't do a lot of rehearsing. Listing any questions we want to ask and figure out what the key focuses of the meetings are. Beginning the meeting, we greet the legislators, we introduce ourselves, as well as saying our preferred pronouns. If the meeting is in person at the More Than Words building in Boston, we typically do a tour. Whether it's us or one of the youth in the program doing the tour, the legislator would get a tour. We set up our PowerPoint, we explain who we are, what we do, and the bills that we're focused on. And then we open up for discussion and questions that they may have. We ask them if they will openly support the two bills we are currently focused on, which is the Raise the Age bill and also the Transitions bill. And we also follow up in the end to make sure that they're standing on what they are saying to us. So say they said that if we met on Zoom and they said that they were going to come in for an in-person meeting or whatever the case may be, we make sure that after that Zoom meeting, we reach out, we email them. I want maybe later on in the day or next week, give them some time to like figure out their schedule and just be like, hey, you know, great meeting last week. We just want to make sure that we are still seeing you soon, like things like that. Me personally, I do the advocacy work because it allows me to feel useful with dealing with issues that have personally affected me and like people around me. And it's important for people like you guys in the audience to join me, because the more people there are going as hard for these bills, the better the outcome may be. So yeah.
Great. Thank you so much, Tanea. And I know I was just checking at the chat, and I recognize some of this stuff might be overwhelming. Here's what I recommend. If it's overwhelming, just take what information you need, because some of this is background information. If it's too much, block it out. And that's fine. But that's why the practice session in the second half is going to be important, because you're going to try this out for yourselves. So I want to just finishing up before going into the practice sessions. Now I want to talk about the talking points. When you meet with legislators, or if you're going to send them an email or write them a letter, what are you going to do? So again, for the three, and I will send this PowerPoint to folks after this event if you want to go through this. So the first is, this is just a reminder of where everything else is. Diversion, there is a bill on Thursday. This is the most pressing piece of all of this, is because it's happening in 2 days. We're asking, and then expungement is in Ways and Means, Raise the Age is in Judiciary. What does that mean in terms of the ask? You can, for download, all the fact sheets you can get from cfjj.org/advocacy, and look for these symbols. That symbol will tell you which bill you want to download the fact sheet from, because there's all our bills. Let's look at these symbols. So for the diversion bill, you want to talk about the bill number. You want to have a one-liner about what the bill does, what the problem is. And so this talks about the problem with judges not being able to divert, and this is the reason why, because of these offenses being ineligible for diversion. And so what happens in terms of charging limits judges' authority? What's the solution? This expands the list of offenses, especially this behavior that young people tend to be charged by, that is more indicative of their adolescence rather than their risk, and you have a better way of addressing that through community-based interventions. This is an important one, the ask. The bill is going to come up for a vote on Thursday. So right now, it is not an ask to representatives, it's only to the senators. And you want them to do two things. Ducci mentioned this amendment to allow kids to remain in school. We don't have an amendment number yet. Was hoping to have it by now. We don't. But if you want them to, the part of our follow-up will include what the ask is, the amendment number. That amendment number says allows kids to remain in school while they're in diversion. And after this amendment is adopted, we want you to vote yes on Senate Bill 2942, only to all the senators. Raise the age. Again, Chris and Jake were excellent about explaining the problem with this, with why prosecuting older teens in the adult system is harmful. What Raise the Age does is reduces crime by shifting the juvenile justice system. The ask, because this is early on in the process, it's in the Judiciary Committee, you're going to reach out to both your representative and your senator. And the ask is, one is, I want you to co-sponsor this bill. Because there's no vote, co-sponsorship is the next best thing to say, yes, I'm committing to vote yes if it ever comes for a vote. So you want as many co-sponsors as possible. And then you ask them, both your House representative and the senator, reached out to the Judiciary Committee and asked them to report out this bill favorably. For expungement, again, the problem, I'm rushing through this just because we spoke a lot about these bills. We want to increase, we decrease the offenses that are ineligible for expungement. We also want to remove the cap on number of cases so that yet more young people can access expungement. What's the ask? Again, this bill is in the Senate Ways and Means Committee, which means it's really just the senators who are able to act on it right now. So reaching out to your senators and say, we want, you can't ask for co-sponsorship right now, but what you say is, we want this to come out for a vote. It needs to come out to Senate Ways and Means to have that yes and no vote. So that's the ask. So we're about to go into the breakout sessions right now. And the way we're going to do this